Hello and welcome to Amplified Voices, where we highlight Black voices around the world that are making an impact within their respective industries. My name is Debbie Alamru and I'm your host. In this episode, I sat down with the President of Motown Records, Ethiopia Habtemariam, who was recognized by Billboard as the highest-ranking African-American woman at Universal Music Group. We talked about her start in the industry at the age of 14, how she has navigated a male-dominated industry to attain her level of success, the legacy she hopes to leave behind, and much more. It is an absolute honor to have you here today. So how are you doing? What has life during quarantine been like for you?
First, I want to say thank you for that intro. That was really dope. I appreciate it. As I mentioned to you before, I'm a fan of you as well in your writing. So this is really a pleasure for me to be connected and for us to finally do this interview. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Life in quarantine has been crazy in many ways. I know it's been for all of us. I am currently in Los Angeles, where I've been living for about 6 years now, but I'm from Atlanta. So I spent most of my time in Atlanta with my family. My parents are there, my brothers, nieces, nephews, best friends, everyone is there, along with my partners and several of our artists and stuff. And so I've had a place there for years as well. So at the top of everything, I hopped on a plane and got to Atlanta.
That's great. That's been, I think, for most people, the best part of this is being able to connect with people. Normally, I'm sure your schedule is hectic. So normally it's not as easy to connect. So that's been a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's been good. Zoom has made that connection from a work standpoint able to take place, but also it's been nice to be closer to family and have that ability to do so and still work.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. Now, Ethiopia, you got your start in the music industry very early. How did that even come about? How were you introduced to the music business?
So actually, I was 14 and I was at LaFace Records in Atlanta. Okay. And then at 16, I got a paid internship at Elektra Records.
Okay.
And how did it happen? So, listen, I'm a child of immigrants, clearly, and I was raised in the South. And for me, music was the connection point, like that art form, being able to connect to music and realize that, whether it was on emotional level or whatever, that people of all backgrounds, et cetera, could connect. Because you can imagine when I was a kid growing up in the South, they didn't know much about Ethiopians. I had the name Ethiopia, et cetera. So anyway, music for me was the connection to other people, period. And so I had a deep love and passion for music at a really young age. And I was in Tuskegee, Alabama in my early years. And then I moved to Atlanta, which had a thriving music community when I was in middle school. In my freshman year in high school, I had a teacher who, there was a career planning class we had to take. And I had this teacher I worked with. And long story short, she had this amazing Black woman by the name of Shanti Das, who was heading up promotions for LaFace Records at the time. And she came and spoke at our class. And I went up to her in my very young, fearless self and was like, can I shadow you for a day? Can I come see what you do? And I just remember I was like a huge TLC fan as a young girl. And I remember seeing Shanti in person and she kind of looked like TLC. I always wanted them to be my big sisters, And I was like, I want to be just like her. Because as a kid, I would read fanzines and things. I only knew about publicists or I would read about production companies. And I wrote, and I've always written since I was a kid, like writing in my journal or whatever, but that wasn't necessarily my gift. And so I wanted to learn about the different careers in music, and I had the opportunity to do it because Atlanta was such a thriving city, and it had LaFace Records there, which was a major label. They had TLC, Outkast, Usher, Pink, Toni Braxton, and it was a Black record label in Atlanta. So I had that ability to do that as a kid, and that was all she wrote. I mean, once I got my opportunity to learn to be in there, you couldn't really stop me.
That's incredible. Now, are you musical at all? Do you play any instruments, or is it strictly the business side?
No, it's strictly business.
Okay.
Although, I mean, I wished I could sing.
Oh, my
God. I'm tone deaf. No, but I have, like I said, I've been writing since I was a young kid. Never wrote music or whatever, but I just have like a deep appreciation for music, the gift that it is, right? For people who are blessed with that ability to write, create, perform music. And, you know, I look at it like my role. At a young age, I had a deep appreciation for it because of the connectivity between people, and I understand how powerful music is. And I saw myself as being like a catalyst in a way to build bridges, and also like to protect those who are blessed with the gift, right? Because I know how much music meant to me and continues to mean to me. And so how can I learn different areas of the business, how it works, and you know, in some ways be a protector, some ways like, you know, educate, etc., and help amplify the talent that exists, right? And so that's been I found my purpose pretty early on in my career, and I've been able to learn a lot along the way and work with incredible people and, you know, continue to grow, innovate, etc.
Absolutely. I love that. Now, you're a first generation Ethiopian American, as you mentioned, and we all know like the kind of running joke, though it is based on some truth, of how immigrant parents typically give their children 3 career options, right? So you've got a doctor, you've got a lawyer, you got an engineer. But it does seem that it was very apparent to you early on what you wanted to do with your life. So how did your parents respond to that? Did they have trouble accepting that you wanted to enter the music business at first, or were they supportive from the start?
So my mom had one perspective and my father had another. Okay. It used to be that way. My father wanted me to be either a lawyer, or he thought I should pursue writing, because that was always something that I loved. And yeah, I think it was more like being a lawyer. I think he always pushed my brothers into either being like an engineer or things of that sort. My father was at veterinary medicine. He was an epidemiologist. He just retired recently. And my mom went to school to be a physical therapist, but she was like a stay-at-home mom or whatever. And so, yeah, no, I had a lot of pressure, but you know, because I found my passion early on, my father really supported it. It's interesting, you know, I didn't go to college, which was a really big deal for my family. You know, it's even interesting saying it out loud now. I'm thinking like, oh God, my mom is going to be upset. But I didn't go to college. I found my career early on, and that was really hard for my parents at first. But I remember my father being the one to, like, you know, I always had like a computer. He would bring home, you know, his computer from work and work from home, and I would work on his computer. But I had my little office set up in my bedroom at my parents' house when I was 17. And my father, like, we went to Office Depot or something, and he got me all the supplies I needed. And he was extremely supportive. My mom, to this day, no matter what I've done, she's like, when are you going back to school? What do you do? You know, I don't understand your job, you know, that kind of thing. But I think we finally hit a place where, you know, she might see things, something like this, and be like, oh, okay, you're doing good, you know.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But, you know, look, it was difficult. It was difficult also, not only with my parents, is you got all the additional family members and their perspectives and opinions of what you should be doing with your life. And growing up, I remember uncles calling my mom, like, how are you letting her be around these artists and hip hop? And, you know, like, because my path was very non-traditional, you know, because I was young. I was very young, you know, going to clubs, and in the mix, I was, you know, under 21 and figuring it out. But it was me just being a part of the culture and the lifestyle and soaking it all up. I was responsible. My parents trusted me in a way, and I honored that, you know what I mean? And so I was in the mix, but I wasn't of it, you know?
Yeah. No, I completely understand. That's incredible. Now, your father was actually a dean at Tuskegee University, which is an HBCU in Alabama. So how much influence did that have on you as a person?
Oh, that's a good question. It was a huge influence. So I was born in Berkeley, California. My father got his PhD at UC Berkeley, and I was 3 months old when we moved to Tuskegee. And my father was adamant about educating his people and being at a HBCU, Tuskegee, having the vet school there. And I laugh now because I say, like, my dad kind of created this all Black everything world for us growing up, being in Tuskegee, but it was so beautiful. I grew up on that campus, you know. My memories, when I think about being a kid, running around that campus after school, being at the vet school with my father, or hearing the marching band rehearsing in the background, or weekends at the football games and playing with my friends under the stands, like it's a part of my DNA. And so it also gave me a foundation for just being proud to be Black. You know, as a part of that as well, of course, you learned about, you know, the racism and things like that in the history, but I also felt so safe and secure in my home always, you know? And so I'm very thankful for that. And then we moved to Atlanta my sixth grade year, and we moved to a part of Atlanta. There are a lot of, there's a large African community in Atlanta, but we moved to Southwest Atlanta, which wasn't a traditional area where a lot of, you know, immigrants kind of moved to, but that was it felt like Tuskegee in many ways, which is in a major city. And I'm so thankful to have that foundation. But my dad definitely created a world of all Black everything for me, part of my identity. And I love being able to grow up in the South. So HBCUs I have a love for them. And I just remember my dad also, like, he would get job offers to go work at these big universities, you know, very well respected, and he would never leave. It was really important to him to educate his people, which is, you know,
that's
Black
beautiful.
people. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So on that note then, August 28th of 2020 marked the 57-year anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. And on that anniversary last month, Motown released the recording of the full speech as a digital single available on streaming services for the first time. At a time in our nation where we're facing so much social unrest and racial injustices, what was the intention behind releasing that?
The intention and the goal was to really highlight the work that Dr. King did and the speeches. You know, it was several years back visiting the Motown Museum. Of course, with being familiar with the catalog, I was aware that Berry Gordy had released his speeches, but at a time like now, and to honor the anniversary, but knowing, if you go back and listen to the speech and you listen to his words, it resonates so much now. And not only have we re-released the speeches, we've also shine a light on them, and we're going to do a lot to remind people of this. It wasn't just that speech that we put out from Dr. King. We're releasing the other speeches that he put out as well, but we also want to create a platform for other writers and poets, etc., today that are speaking up and using their voices with what's happening in society now, and releasing those as well. So I'm excited about that, to continue to connect the dots and provide a platform. I think that's important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the 2019 documentary, Hitsville, The Making of Motown. It's such an incredible documentary that really tells the story of Berry Gordy and many of Motown's superstar artists, as well as creative figures. There's just a lot of rich history that's revealed to us, and those exclusive recordings from Motown meetings in the 60s. It's just amazing to hear now. Now, you were an executive producer on that project. So can you tell me a little bit about how that documentary came to be filmed? What was the moment that made you say, we need to tell this story and now is the time to do so?
It was a labor of love, because when I was first approached with the opportunity to be the head of Motown, I had to go and meet Berry Gordy, and I'll never forget driving up this hill in Bel Air to go meet him. And I'm literally driving, and I just put my head down and I start praying, because I couldn't believe, it was pretty surreal, right? I couldn't believe I was getting a chance to go meet him, and that this opportunity was in front of me. And so going to his house, what was supposed to be only a lunch meeting ended up being, maybe a 5 to 6 hour meeting. And during that time, he told us, it was myself and the head of Universal Music Group, he told us about this footage that he had and how he documented everything. It was such a genius. He knew to document what was happening during that time. The picnics, the meetings, the sessions, et cetera, just to think about what was happening then in the 60s, he was documenting everything, which is, genius. Anyway, so he shows us this footage, and he had been talking about, this idea of doing a documentary, and I guess he had been working on it for years. So cut to Motown moves back west, Capitol Music Group, I'm there, and the CEO of Capitol Music Group, I'm taking him for the first time to go meet Mr. Gordy, and we're going to his house. And on the way there, I think I mentioned him. I was like, listen, he has this footage. He's been documenting everything. Nothing's happening with the documentary. This is probably 2 years later. I'm like, just FYI, we should try and work on something. And I have to give credit to our CEO, Steve Barnett, because he was relentless in that mission. But it was a labor of love, and it was so necessary. And it was really important to just push the agenda of the importance of educating people today of what happened then. I think that's been my mission with Motown since I've been there and was made president in 2014. It was about reminding people of the history of what this company did out of Detroit. Berry Gordy being an entrepreneur, but had this amazing team of Black executives that grew to be, a more diverse company as a whole. But honestly, this small block in Detroit, these artists, songwriters, musicians, and executives and staff created something so incredible. Yeah. And as my growth in the industry has happened, I've noticed over time there's been a question of the value of Black music and Black talent. And when I got this opportunity at Motown, all I could think about was what they did in the 60s and how huge that was, right? And so it's continued to happen over and over again. And so to have the opportunity to remind people, to educate people the foundation of what Motown was created on and how successful these artists were, and how they became global superstars, right? Yeah. And it wasn't just something that was only in Detroit, only in the US. They went on to create music that connected people around the world. And, that continued to happen over time. I think about of course, my entry point to Motown as a kid, my parents, of course, played the Jacksons, and they played the Commodores coming from Tuskegee. I want to shout out Lionel Richie, who's from Tuskegee. So he's like my favorite songwriter. Okay. But Boys to Men, when I think about the Motown Philly era, I thought about Michael Bivins, Gerald Busby, my mentor, Clarence Avant, who was the chairman of Motown at one point. Motown continued to innovate, but also there were so many other Black entrepreneurs that went on to build and create their labels in the spirit of what Motown did then. And so it was important to tell that story of how Motown was created. I mean, the documentary is absolutely amazing because you get how genius Mr. Gordy was and how the team really put together this structure that eventually had to evolve and grow as the times did, right? Which is key to moving forward and innovating. So I was really proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a structure that a lot of people have used as a blueprint, since then. So it's absolutely amazing. In your role as president, when you were president of urban music at Universal Music Publishing Group, you played an instrumental role in the increasing influence of hip hop on mainstream US pop hits by signing artists like Ludacris, J. Cole, Chris Brown. And then in your role now as president of Motown Records, you've been moving Motown into the hip hop space, which sort of completes this vision that Berry Gordy had to be the sound of young America. And so you've signed artists like Migos, Lil Yachty, Rich Homie Quan, and the list goes on. What do you envision when you think of the future of Motown?
So that's so interesting, like the perception of things, right? Because I don't even know that, I'll be honest, I don't even know if I've thought specifically about genre when I identify talent or things that I want to sign, even on the publishing side. And I think it's important to be tapped into youth culture and to know the music that resonates with youth culture. And one of my goals with Motown was to find a way to reintroduce the label and at least highlight in youth culture what Motown stood for. And so it was important for us to create a platform for Motown, a platform for other entrepreneurs, right? Like using Motown as a platform for other entrepreneurs that were kind of living in the same breadth of what Berry Gordy did then. And, there is an entrepreneurial spirit that's existed in music for a long time. And so how do you shift culture? How do you move culture? How do you highlight stories? You have to be tapped into, the rhythm and pace of how they move. And hip hop has always been there. And that was just important to me. And, Quality Control Music out of Atlanta was a partnership that I did in 2015. And the first artist that was signed through that was Lil Yachty. Well, he wasn't, no, there was Mako first. But Yachty was the artist that really took off in 2017 for us. And QC's been an incredible partnership for us because the way that they touch youth culture globally, I imagine is similar to what Motown was in the 60s. Well, and so I feel like we've been accomplishing that connection to youth culture. But the artists that I've signed, the talent that I've signed, I'm extremely proud of. I think it's important to just be in tune with the wave and what connects to not just youth culture, to people, period, to know which way the wind is going, to not follow trends, but to also be aware of what people want to need, what they want to feel, and have music that supports that. I'm about artist development. That's kind of something that I've always believed in, signing and identifying talent early, nurturing that, and developing it. But also, it's a new day where people are able to create and put their music out and build their fan base. And so another part of what we do is really supporting that and helping to amplify artists that have already identified who they are, what their sound is, what their vision is, and helping to bring that to the world.
I love that. So on that note, how do you tap into what the public is into? And because you said not following trends, you want to be able to cater to what it is that the public or your audience is tapped into. How do you figure that?
I wouldn't even say it's just about how I do it. I mean, I have a team that I work with because clearly, I feel like I know great songs because of what my career has been, and I know music that will touch all people. But it's important to have a great team of people that actually live and breathe the culture, as well as people that understand, are in tune with these platforms where people are building a fan base, for themselves. And you can look and see who's really found music that's connecting to people and why, right? But then it's also about how you can help people grow, right? How you can help them develop their sound or bring other producers, artists, et cetera, to collaborate with them to grow their music. So it's not just me. There's a team, an incredible team of A&R people that I work with that are also in tune. But you just got to be in touch with the people, and you have to be in the community with the people to know what's moving them,
Right. It has to be genuine. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious to know, what is it that you're listening to? What does Ethiopia have on repeat right now?
For me, it's really about my mood, right? Like I was driving to my place late last night, and I think I just put on a playlist just to, every Thursday night new music drops. So I just want to hear everything that dropped in. It could be anything. It could be pop, dance, alternative, country,
I like that.
I'll come back to that question. Yeah, that's always the hardest one for me. Like, what are you listening to? Yeah.
Okay, we could come back to that. So
okay.
You were highlighted in a Billboard feature as the most powerful African-American woman at Universal Music Group. Now that is such an incredible recognition. And it makes me think then, being a female executive in the music business, what challenges have you faced in such a male-dominated industry, and how did you overcome them?
What challenges have I faced? I think I'll say this. When I was the earlier part of my career, I never expected the challenges because I was naive. And I was just so focused on what I wanted to achieve. I never thought about, me being a woman, a Black woman at that, or, being so young that it would be hard for me. I was just laser focused on what I wanted to achieve. And, my success has come from being a creative that contributed significantly to the careers of artists, writers, producers, et cetera, and helping to build brands as well. And that growth for myself as an executive and moving up the corporate ladder is something that, it's important to have mentors and people that you can lean on that can give you guidance on how to really do that. But what's been important to me is still authentically being myself and authentically being able to show up and do what I'm here to do as I grow and up the corporate ladder, and being able to express myself in that way as well. It's really important. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many little girls and young women that undoubtedly look up to you and want to follow in your footsteps. So how are you personally affecting change for the women who come after you?
It's how I show up in my job, and not even just in my job. It's how I show up every day, right? And I'm conscious of it because I can also consciously think of my journey was not an easy one. And I remember seeing little things of, there'd be times that other women wouldn't be supportive and wouldn't raise a hand or whatever. And so I remember being a young kid in this and thinking I never wanted to be like some of the other people I may have come across and seen. And for whatever reason that they weren't supportive, weren't helpful, I think I've come across people that have felt as though maybe they've had a hard time coming up in a career and they feel like you got to go through that too, right? And they don't really communicate that. And so mentorship is important to me, but also how I'm showing up in my everyday work and job with the team that I have, and hopefully how I show up, how I carry myself, what I do, my resilience, what I'm able to achieve gives them guidance as well. But it's important to me because I know it's necessary.
Yeah.
I understand my responsibility. It's been one of the things that I mentioned, Clarence Avon. He's been a mentor and he's been in my life for a really long time. And I feel blessed and fortunate to know him and to have known him in the way that I have. But he's always talked to me about the power of responsibility. And that's something that's just in me and sticks with me also. Yeah. Yeah. But I do as much as I can. I think that I would always love to do more, and I get excited when I get to meet people via social media and give guidance or share in the way that I can. But also, it's just really important how I show up every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you're doing definitely doesn't go unnoticed. So
thank you.
Now you've been in this industry for a very long time. I mean, you've grown up in it, right?
I've been in it longer than I've actually
not been in it.
Realized. Yeah, exactly. I've had that moment of reflection.
Yeah. So how do you feel that it shaped you as a person?
That the industry has shaped me, or music?
The industry, the music business, the world that you're in.
That's a good question. Has the business shaped me?
Mm-hmm.
How do I feel? I'm proud. I'm proud of how I've grown up and what I've seen and experienced and the awareness that I have. It was always really important to me because I'm not going to lie, the music industry is cutthroat.
Yep.
But what always stuck with me was I never wanted to change who I was and who I am, first and foremost, as a child of God, but also I am an extension of my parents, who I love and honor so much, and my family and my community. And so that's always been really important to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that's made me a little rare and has, I've kind of stood out in some ways because of that. My intention for being in music was always coming from a place of honoring the gift of music and the talent. And because I may not have had it, I feel like I was there to help, and I am here to help bring about music. And people who are, again, blessed with that gift of it. And also people that may be marginalized, right? In the same way people might not think that because you're from a certain neighborhood or have a certain socioeconomic background that you might not be able to achieve this level of success. And I'm here to say that there are no boundaries in that way, and that, Black people can continue to do it over and over again. And so I've always been me, and that's been important to me, to be me first in how I show up. And I think that means everything. I can't say that it's made it less challenging. In fact, it may have been more challenging in many ways, but I've learned a lot. And I think the only way to make change is to not follow the norm and to be strong enough to push forward in what you feel convicted by, what you feel like is the right way, and the right way for you, so you're not showing up being something else or someone else. And because I wasn't motivated by one just trying to get rich or trying to get popular, you know what I mean? Like, it was about music. I've always been about the work, and I've been blessed and fortunate because of that.
I think that's key. That's definitely key. Now, you've been with Motown for 9 years. What has been your proudest accomplishment there, other than becoming president?
My proudest accomplishment with Motown is, I think it's really just come in this year. We've had successes with artists in the 60th anniversary, which was in 2019, and really being able to like build the brand and touch youth culture. But also, you know, I remember going to the UK. I would go to the UK a lot. And the Motown logo wasn't up on the wall in our larger office building or whatever. Now, my dream was like just to get that logo up, right? And to also, I was like, oh, one day maybe we'll have like an A&R here or whatever. And a few months ago, having a conversation with the head of the UK office and talking about building out Motown UK.
Wow.
And that opportunity to really build the label out in another market. And we just announced this Rob Pascal, who's the MD of Motown UK, and Afreya, who's heading up marketing, is there. And that was a huge moment for me. And I actually got kind of emotional about it because when I would visit the UK, there weren't many Black executives inside these labels. And I was very conscious of that. Definitely not. And the ones that I saw, I hardly ever saw any Black women, let alone Black people, period. And to have that opportunity to have Motown in the UK, to have this level of Black leadership in the UK, and to have a platform for Black talent, that really was probably the first time it fully hit me. Now, mind you, we've had major success. In addition to that, this year, you know, we got Lil Baby, who's the biggest artist of 2020, highest selling album and, you know, streams of 2020, right? Yeah. So the artist successes, that is huge as well. But I think the culmination of that success with the artists, to see that happen where you have the label like continue out and build in the global market, that really connected for me on a deeper level. So I'm super proud of that. I think that's all happened this year.
Congratulations. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So what is the best piece of advice that you've received in your career, and does that still hold true in the music business today?
Best piece of advice in my entire career? You know, I think I've received great advice. When I kind of first stepped into the role of president at Motown, I remember someone saying to me, they only remember the hits. And the context of the conversation was, you have to keep taking shots, right? And so it doesn't matter how many misses you have, people only remember the hits. So just keep going. And essentially that's what it's about. That's actually something that when people ask me for advice, it's always about keep going, not letting up. No matter how hard it may be, it's only over when you stop. And you can meet challenges over and over again, and you will at every stage of your career, but it's only over when you stop. And that's probably the best advice I receive. And I think something that I would want to share is it's really over when you stop, to have that level of resilience and to also not compromise who you are, right? But to also have the self-awareness to know where you may need to grow, but not to compromise your values, not to compromise who you are, is another thing that I think is extremely important.
That is. Now, you've had a profound impact on Motown and just the music industry as a whole. What do you want to be remembered for most?
Providing opportunity. Providing opportunity for others. It's not really about me. I think that I am a vessel. And so that's when I think about the things that I'm most proudest of, like, and the way it connects for me, it's because seeing the success or seeing people overcome challenges or overcome being marginalized or any way or only perceived to be one thing. I love proving people wrong.
Yes.
I love it. You know, I love proving people wrong. I really enjoy it. And so I think providing opportunity for others, for me, it's always been about the music and the creators and the talent. And then also, I think that's expanded a lot as I've grown in my career, because I think identifying talent for me has also come in the form of other executives. And there's talent that everyone has. And I think that's been a part of my gift, is being able to see the gift in others. And so being able to provide opportunity for talents and being able to help give guidance in that way, I'm proud of that. And I'm also showing up as myself. So to not compromise that. And listen, I can't say it's been perfect along the way. I've had to learn a lot as I've grown, and I've faced challenges, or I've been in situations where I felt like I couldn't be myself, or I was being pushed into a certain corner, but I pushed through, and I'm proud of being able to get through that. Right. And then course correct and get back to myself, or, you know what I mean? And so I think that's also important too, as you grow, to be honest about that and how that can happen, and taking care of yourself. I think that's really key also. And so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of where I am in my career, in my life, period. My family, my friends, that's been the key part of who I am as well. And so to have those relationships be intact as well along the way is really important to me also.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ethiopia. On that note, we respect you, we appreciate you, we honor you and value you, and we thank you for everything that you have done in the industry, and also for taking the time to talk to us with Amplified Voices. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm really proud of it. And I just want to give a shout out to all the incredible African, Black, talented executives in music that are pushing culture forward. There's so many now, too many for me to name, but that it motivates me. It keeps me inspired. So there's so many young talent that I've seen or come across, and I follow them, and I'm super excited about that. So, and thank you for what you're doing and amplifying these voices, including your own. So thank you for being a great representation for us as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.